There was a flicker of blue light on the ceiling. That's what woke me. Not a sound. Not her voice. Just that quiet, ghostly flicker, soft and strobing, like a warning signal you only notice after something's already gone wrong. I turned my head toward the nightstand. Her phone was vibrating, face down, camera still on. The screen glowed like it had just ended a call, or maybe it was still going. I didn't reach for it. I didn't have to. Mine buzzed at the same time. I squinted. A video notification. Missed. From her. Strange. She was only a few feet away, lying in the same bed, asleep, or pretending to be. I tapped into the call log. That's when I saw it. Outgoing FaceTime. To me, 43 seconds ago. Accidental, maybe. But then the screen lit up again, and the thumbnail preview from the call froze my chest mid-breath. Not our bedroom. Not this house. Not even tonight. The image was time-stamped and cached, and it showed her, wide-eyed and flushed, in a dimly lit room that looked nothing like anything we owned. There was a man behind her, shirtless, blurry, adjusting his watch in the mirror. The camera must have slipped. She must have hit my name by accident. But her expression wasn't one of horror or surprise. It was worse. She was smiling, grinning like a kid sneaking out past curfew, like a teenager getting away with it. I didn't say a word, didn't move. I just sat there, staring at her sleeping body next to mine, as if she hadn't just exposed everything in under a minute. The silence was thick, like the kind you get right before a tornado touches down. She shifted in her sleep, rolled to her side, still facing away. And I realized she had no idea. No idea the call had gone through. No idea I'd seen the room. The man. That look. No idea I was already mentally packing every bag I owned. But the twist? This wasn't the first time she'd been in that room. And it wasn't the first time I'd seen him, either. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I lay there, stiff and silent, listening to her breathing slow into that soft rhythm I used to find comforting. But now it just sounded like a countdown to something I couldn't yet name. I didn't move. I didn't touch my phone again. I just stared at the ceiling and played the clip in my mind over and over. That call was only 43 seconds, but it felt like it had torn a hole straight through my chest. The next morning, she acted like everything was normal. Smiled at me in the mirror while brushing her teeth. Asked if I wanted coffee. I told her no. My voice cracked, but she didn't notice. Or she pretended not to. She hummed something. I think it was Fleetwood Mac, and wandered into the kitchen like she hadn't just dialed me mid-infidelity 6 hours earlier. I watched her from the hallway. How she moved. How calm she was. I'd seen that robe before. It was the same one from the thumbnail of the call. Pale blue with the torn left pocket she always said she'd fix. Except now I knew that robe had been in that hotel room. It still had the faint shimmer of a night she hadn't planned to admit existed. And then came the part that made my stomach turn. She leaned over the counter, texting rapidly, smiling at whatever was on her screen. She kept checking her reflection in the oven door, fluffing her hair, adjusting the tie on the robe. Still humming. Still glowing. That was when I remembered something odd from the video. The guy in the background, the blurry one. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I noticed the detail that stuck like a splinter in my brain. A silver cufflink. Just one. The other sleeve was rolled up. Silver, square-edged, with a blue stone in the center. Now, that wouldn't mean anything to most people. But to me, it hit like a freight train. Because 2 weeks ago, she invited me to her office holiday party. And there was a man there, some high-ranking executive, smooth, flashy, with one of those practiced fake laughs. His name was Carter. I remembered him because he complimented my tie in that condescending tone rich guys use when they want to mark their territory without sounding obvious. He'd been wearing silver cufflinks with a blue stone. The image came back to me like a slap. Carter, shaking my hand with his smug little smirk, saying to my wife, "I hope he knows how lucky he is." She laughed too hard at that joke. Now I was the joke. I felt dizzy. I waited until she went into the shower, then I grabbed her phone off the counter, hands shaking, and opened her camera roll. She had the passcode set to my birthday, as if that somehow made it romantic. Or maybe she just thought I'd never have the guts to check. And honestly, until that night, she was right. But I checked. There weren't many photos. She was careful. But in her recently deleted folder, yeah, that was the Real treasure chest. There it was, a mirror selfie of her in the same hotel bathroom. Same robe. Same necklace. Same smug smile. And behind her, reflected in the glass, was a man's arm with a silver cufflink. My vision blurred. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just froze. My legs moved before my mind did. I went back into the bedroom, pulled out the suitcase from under the bed, and started throwing clothes in. Not folded, not organized, just shoved. Like my whole life had been shoved sideways in a matter of hours. I wasn't just leaving. I was leaving before she realized I knew. Because I didn't want an apology. I didn't want her to spin it. I didn't want the fake tears or the classic, "It didn't mean anything." I wanted her to come out of the shower, towel in her hair, looking for me, and find nothing. No husband. No suitcase. Just absence. But something stopped me before I zipped the bag. I looked at the dresser drawer. The one where she kept our shared documents, old receipts, and, most importantly, her personal notebook. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe part of me still needed confirmation that I wasn't losing my mind. Inside the notebook, tucked between pages of her chaotic handwriting and doodles, was a list. A list of dates, hotel names, initials. I flipped through it, numb. I saw the name of the hotel from the video call. Next to it, C. Finally alone with him. Felt electric. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't her first betrayal. I was just the latest one who finally caught up. And she was in the shower, rinsing off a night I wasn't supposed to know about. But now I did. And the worst part? I was starting to realize I'd been blind for much, much longer than just one night. I stood in the middle of the bedroom, her notebook still in my hands, as the shower cut off. I heard the curtain slide open, followed by the soft rustle of a towel. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, louder than the sound of water still dripping from the faucet. I knew I had maybe 30 seconds. 30 seconds before she stepped out, wrapped in lies and cotton, smiling like nothing happened. 30 seconds before I'd have to decide, confrontation or quiet escape. But instead of doing either, I sat down. On the edge of the bed, the suitcase still half-zipped behind me, notebook on my lap. And I waited. I needed to see her face. Not because I wanted to fight, no. I wasn't built for that. I wasn't the dramatic type, never had been. I needed to see if she would lie. Look me in the eyes and lie. She walked in with her usual, relaxed rhythm. Hair wrapped up, body in that robe. Now I knew too much about it. She stopped when she saw me sitting there. "Oh," she said, blinking. "You're up early." I said nothing. Her eyes dropped to the notebook in my hands, and I saw it. The split-second glitch in her face. That little micro-expression that betrayed everything. Her lips parted, then pressed tight. Her hands clutched the towel just a little firmer. "Where did you get that?" Her voice was soft. Innocent, almost. Practiced. I opened it to the page. Her handwriting stared back at her. The hotel name. The date. The initial. "Is this Carter?" I asked. My voice cracked like dry wood. She didn't answer. Just looked at me. Not angry. Not scared. Just calculating. "I don't think that matters," she finally said. My mouth dropped open, but no words came. "I mean," she continued, walking slowly to her vanity like we were talking about takeout. "You've been distant for months. You never ask how I'm doing anymore. You don't touch me unless I initiate. I feel like I live with a ghost." I blinked at her. "So, your answer is to cheat? And take notes on it?" She smiled at her reflection in the mirror, adjusted a stray hair, and said, "At least I still feel something." That line hit me harder than the video, harder than the call, because that was the moment I realized she'd rewritten the story in her head. I wasn't the betrayed husband. I was the distant one, the emotionally unavailable one, the placeholder. She thought I was too weak to leave. But this time, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I stood up slowly, grabbed my suitcase, and walked toward the door. Her voice followed me. "Where are you going? You're seriously leaving? After all we've built?" I paused with my hand on the doorknob. I turned back just long enough to say one thing. "No, I'm not leaving. You are." And then I left her in that room. Towel still wrapped, notebook still open, excuses still forming. But for the first time in years, I wasn't the ghost anymore. I didn't drive anywhere at first. I just sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel like it owed me an explanation. The morning light was too bright, too cheerful for what had just happened. It filtered through the windshield, spilling across my lap, like the universe hadn't gotten the memo that everything inside me had just shattered. I could still hear her voice echoing in my head. Calm, detached, surgical. "At least I still feel something." She said it like that was supposed to make it okay. I didn't even start the engine. I just sat there, frozen, while neighbors walked their dogs and kids rode scooters down the sidewalk like it was just another Tuesday. I must have looked insane, parked there with my jaw clenched and my suitcase on the passenger seat. But I didn't care. I couldn't care. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't just hurt. I was awake. She thought I wouldn't leave. She thought I'd sit back down, sleep it off, forgive it like it was a bad mood or a missed birthday. That's how little she thought of me now. As someone who would endure the humiliation quietly, because that's what I'd always done. I was the dependable one. The safe one. The fool. But she didn't realize I'd seen everything. Not just the call. Not just the notes. There was more. I hadn't told her that yet. Back in the house, before she got out of the shower, I'd taken photos of the notebook pages with my phone. But I also opened her laptop. She always used the same password, the name of a dog we never ended up adopting. I found a hidden folder buried 3 levels deep. Inside, screenshots, conversations, booking confirmations, and a string of saved photos, her in different outfits, different rooms, but always the same expression. She wasn't just cheating. She was documenting it, like it was an achievement. And Carter? He wasn't the only one. I saw names I didn't recognize, initials that didn't match anyone from her work. Notes like, hotel bar was boring, but he surprised me upstairs, and didn't expect to like this one. But his stories were actually interesting. I thought it was just one affair. A mistake. A lonely moment of weakness. But no, it was a pattern. A second life. And I had been funding it. Driving her to airports. Covering shifts when she worked late. Sending flowers on the weekends she was with other men. I was the man behind the curtain of her double life, supporting a performance I was never invited to watch. I finally started the engine, but I didn't know where to go. My parents lived 3 states away. I didn't have close friends in town, not anymore. Most of the people I knew were our friends, and let's be honest, if it came down to choosing sides, I knew exactly who they'd follow. She had the charisma. I had the tendency to vanish into corners. I ended up at a rest stop 20 miles out of town, sitting at a weathered picnic bench, sipping coffee that tasted like burnt regret. And then, just as I opened my phone to scroll aimlessly, a message popped up on the screen. From her. Just 3 words. We need to talk. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. Talk. Now she wanted to talk? Now that the curtain had fallen, now that I was no longer a passive audience member to her performance? I took a deep breath, let the silence fill my lungs, and typed back 5 words. Check your email. And wait. Because if she thought I was going to crawl back like I always had, she had no idea what was coming next. This time, I wasn't just walking away. I was taking something with me. I didn't hit send right away. I just stared at those 5 words. Check your email. And wait. And let the weight of them settle. Because this wasn't just a message. It was a warning shot. I wasn't bluffing. I had proof. Names. Dates. Screenshots. Her own handwriting. Every lie she ever spoon-fed me was now in a neat little file, attached to an email sitting in my drafts, ready to go. Not just to her, but to Carter. And to her boss, who, by the way, showed up in one of those screenshots too. A blurry photo of a dinner receipt, signed with a name that matched the framed award in her office. That explained a lot. The surprise raise, the last-minute conferences, the sudden jump in confidence. I used to be proud of her. Now I felt sick just thinking about how easily she'd used everyone, including me. I wasn't angry the way you scream into pillows or punch holes in drywall. No, I was angry like cold steel. Focused. Precise. Controlled. And that's what terrified me the most. How calm I was now that the truth was exposed. There were no more second guesses. No more wondering if I was imagining things. The fog had lifted, and what was left was a battlefield. My phone buzzed again. Another message from her. Doyle, please. Let's be adults about this. She still thought she could manage the situation. Contain the fallout. Like I was one of her work problems to schedule and reschedule until it blew over. Like I hadn't seen the part in her notebook where she ranked them. She ranked them. A list of initials next to words like best kisser, most generous, forgettable, and, God help me, dependable. Next to my initial was that last one. Dependable. She didn't love me. She used me. I was the reliable fallback. The husband who wouldn't rock the boat, wouldn't question the inconsistencies, wouldn't ask where the money went, wouldn't say a word when she came home smiling after girls' night. I was wallpaper in her story, safe, quiet, unimportant. But that email would flip the entire narrative. Because I didn't just write a note. I included everything. The call screenshot, her deleted photo folder, her notes about Carter and the others. I attached them all, along with a short explanation of what I'd seen. No exaggerations, no dramatics, just the truth, backed with evidence she couldn't erase. I saved the draft and set a schedule to send it in 12 hours. To her, to him, to her HR department, even to her sister, the one she pretended to be visiting that night. Then I turned off my phone. The silence that followed was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't peaceful. It was full of pressure, like the moment right before a storm breaks. My heart thudded in my chest, but not with fear. Not anymore. I wasn't afraid of losing her. I was afraid of how long I let her stay. When the sun dipped lower in the sky, I drove to a small motel off the highway. I paid in cash. No questions. No name. Just a key and a hollow room with faded curtains and a buzzing overhead light. But it was mine. Mine, and empty of lies. As I dropped my suitcase onto the creaky bed, I finally exhaled. Not relief, not sadness, just release. She had built a whole world behind my back. But I still had the one thing she couldn't fake, couldn't manipulate, couldn't delete. The truth. And now, it was loaded, locked, and aimed straight at the life she thought I'd never walk away from. By the time I woke up the next morning, the motel room smelled like dust and cheap soap. My back ached from the springy mattress, and the light bleeding through the yellowed curtains made everything feel like an old crime scene. But despite the discomfort, I felt more clarity than I had in months. My phone was still off. I knew what was waiting on the other side of that locked screen: panic, apologies, desperation, maybe even threats. But none of it mattered. The timer was ticking. The email was going out in 2 hours. And she had no idea who else was getting it. See, before I left the house, I copied everything to a private folder and shared it with a trusted contact. My cousin Everett, the only person in my life who never sugarcoated things. Everett was the one who always said, "If something feels wrong, it usually is." I hadn't listened to him when he first raised questions about Bryn. That one Christmas when she disappeared for an hour to take a call in the middle of dinner. He didn't buy it, but I defended her like a fool. Now I was paying the price. Everett texted back late last night, just one line. "Got it. Tell me when to drop the hammer." And that's what this had become now. Not a breakup. Not a divorce. A reckoning. I left the motel and drove into town. Not back to our house. Not yet. I wanted to see something first. A curiosity I couldn't shake. I parked across the street from Carter's law firm. 7 stories of glass and ambition. Men in fitted suits walking in and out with too much cologne and not enough conscience. I wasn't expecting anything cinematic. No confrontation, no fist fight. I just wanted to see him in daylight. The man I had been unknowingly compared to. The man whose name she whispered behind my back while sleeping beside me. I watched for 20 minutes, maybe more, and then I saw him. Tall, sharp, carrying a coffee cup like he owned the sidewalk. His phone was pressed to his ear, his smile wide. He was laughing. God, that laugh. It sounded exactly like it did in the background of the video call. I didn't know whether to hate him or pity him, because he was about to find out that the woman he thought he'd stolen wasn't faithful to anyone, not even her new favorite. I drove away before he saw me. Not because I was scared. I just didn't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing what was coming. He'd find out soon enough. I imagined the moment vividly, his inbox lighting up, his grin fading as he scrolled through proof after proof, the realization dawning that he wasn't the exception. He was just next. Back at the motel, I logged into the email account. The timer hit 0, and then I watched as each message went out, one after another. Subject line: "This is what she didn't tell you." No commentary. No accusations. Just facts. Attachments don't lie. I turned my phone back on 5 minutes later. 27 missed calls. 14 voicemails. And a new message from Bryn that started with, "What the hell did you just do?" I didn't reply. Not yet. Because the storm had only just started. And she was about to learn what it really feels like when the dependable one finally stops holding everything together. Her first voicemail started off calm. Almost sweet, in that cold, manipulative way she always used when trying to defuse something before it exploded. She said she understood why I was upset. That we just needed to sit down and talk face to face like grown-ups. She said there was context. Always context. It was complicated. That word was her favorite shield. Complicated. as if betrayal needed a vocabulary lesson to make it valid. The second voicemail cracked a little. She sounded rushed, breathless. She said I was ruining everything, that she hadn't expected me to do anything. And that sentence alone told me everything I needed to know. She hadn't feared consequences because, in her mind, I was still the quiet man in the corner, dependable Doyle, the placeholder husband, the footnote in her adventurous life. I was never meant to fight back. I was meant to take it, forgive it, swallow it whole, and thank her for not doing worse. But the third message? That one was different. That's when the panic hit. She screamed into the phone. You sent it to my boss? To Carter. Are you insane? Do you know what you've done? Oh, I knew. I knew exactly what I'd done. I'd taken her carefully curated house of lies and flipped the lights on. No more shadows to hide in. No more coy deflections or half-truths wrapped in charm. She was exposed. And now the people whose respect she used to weaponize were seeing the unfiltered version of her. The real one. The one I'd been sleeping beside while she collected trophies made of other men's attention. I got a call from Everett not long after. He was laughing. That dry, sarcastic laugh of his that always made me feel like maybe I wasn't crazy. He said Carter had tried to call him. Twice. Then someone from HR. Then her sister, who apparently hadn't taken kindly to the forwarded photos of Bryn visiting her. She's spiraling, Everett said. She's calling everyone. But nobody's jumping in to save her. I didn't respond right away. I was sitting on the floor of the motel room, back against the wall, staring at the same suitcase I'd packed in a daze just 2 days ago. It still sat untouched, half open. My whole life folded into it like a goodbye note I hadn't written yet. I was exhausted. Not from the drama. Not from the emails. From the years of quiet tolerance that had led here. And that's when it happened. A knock at my motel door. Not loud. Just 2 soft raps. I froze. No one knew I was here. No one but Everett. I stood slowly, walked to the peephole, and felt the breath leave my lungs. It was her. Hair pulled back. Eyes red. Hoodie over her pajamas like she'd thrown it on in a panic. She looked like a ghost of herself. Or maybe for the first time, I was just seeing what was always underneath. She knocked again. Softer this time. Doyle, she said, her voice shaking. Please, just let me talk. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stared through the tiny glass circle as she shifted on her feet, sniffling. I should have felt pity, or anger, or closure, but I felt nothing. Just a strange, detached calm. She pulled out her phone, probably to call me again, and as she did, I stepped back from the door. Quiet. Measured. Like I'd already decided something, and there was no going back. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about release. I sat back down, let her knock fade into silence, and opened my laptop. There was one more thing I had to do. I stared at the blinking cursor on the screen, a blank message open in front of me. For the first time in years, I had the chance to speak without being interrupted, dismissed, or emotionally outmaneuvered. Not to her. Not to Carter. Not to the fake friends who'd always smiled more at her than me. But to myself. A letter to the man I used to be. The one who stayed too long, bent too far, and believed too much. It wasn't about revenge anymore. The messages had been sent. The truth was out. She was unraveling in real time, and all I felt was lightness. Like the years of carrying her weight, her lies, her blame, had finally lifted off me. It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It felt clean. Honest. She kept calling. I stopped counting how many times. She sent texts, long ones, short ones, photos of old memories, screenshots of remember when. Some were apologies. Others were rage. The last one said, I lost everything. Are you happy now? And I thought about that for a long time. Was I happy? I didn't feel triumphant. I wasn't dancing in victory or drinking to her downfall. But I was finally free. Free from her grip. From the endless second-guessing. From the cold nights of pretending I was okay while she pretended to be someone else entirely. And in that freedom, yeah, I found happiness. It didn't come all at once. Healing isn't instant, even when you cut away what's poisoning you. But it started with little things. Breathing without the weight in my chest. Waking up without checking for lies. Laughing, really laughing, at something stupid on TV without feeling like I was sneaking joy behind her back. I stayed at that motel 2 more days. Then I drove out of town, farther than I'd planned, and checked into a small cabin by the lake I used to visit as a kid. No phone service. No internet. Just whined through the trees and water hitting the shore like clockwork. I started writing again. Not just emails or statements, but stories. For me, stories where the quiet guy doesn't get walked over. Stories where he walks away, grows, lives. A few weeks later, Everett helped me move into a small apartment near his place. It's nothing fancy, second floor walk-up, leaky faucet in the kitchen, but it's mine. I got a used couch, some cheap shelves, and a plant I'm determined not to kill. There's a coffee shop down the block where the barista remembers my order. She smiles every time I come in. Her name's Lorna. She asks questions and actually waits for the answers. I haven't told her anything about Bryn. Not yet. Maybe I never will. Bryn tried to reach me one last time. A letter. Handwritten. 6 pages, front and back. Full of regret. Full of what we had, what we could fix, and what she never meant. I didn't read it all. Just the first few lines. Then I folded it neatly, slid it back into the envelope, and put it in a drawer I never opened. Because her story is over now. Mine's just starting.